Number of functions. Here's an example number function we've already seen. Power 2, 3 raises 2 to the power of 3, which means 2 times 2 times 2 is 2 times 2 is 4 times 2 is 8. Let's look at all the number functions. The functions highlighted in red are the ones we're interested in at this point in time. The ones highlighted in black we're not terribly interested in right now. They're mostly trigonometric functions such as sine, cosine, tangent. They're opposite number arc functions, as in arc sine, arc cosine, arc tangent, the hyperbolic functions, and various others. Let's look at ABS, seal, floor, mod power, round, sine, square root, and trunk. What do they do? ABS. ABS is an absolute value function. Seal is a ceiling function. In other words, you take a real number, which is a number with decimals, and you round it up to a whole number. Floor does the opposite of ceiling. Mod is a modulus or remainder function. Power, we've already seen, raises a number to a power. Round will round a number off to a certain number of places. By rounding, mathematically, we mean that a decimal that is 0.5 and over is rounded up, and a decimal that is less than 0.5 is rounded down. The sign simply gives you whether the number is positive or negative. A negative number will give you -1, a positive number will give you +1. This is a square root function. Square root of 4 is 2. Trunk function is truncate. Truncate is slightly different to round in that it doesn't round up or down based on 0.5, it simply chops off the decimal. Now let's go and take a look at a few examples. Here I have a script file where I typed in a number of examples, generally 1 or 2 for each one of the functions. All I'm going to do is I'm simply going to copy and paste these select statements using the functions into SQL+ and show you the results. Let's start with the absolute value function. So let's copy and paste these 2 lines, go to SQL+, and paste it. As you can see, absolute value -1 gives you +1. Absolute +1 gives you 1. Mathematically, the absolute value function simply gives you the positive value for either a negative or positive number. And obviously, 0 will give you 0. Now let's take a look at floor and ceiling. So we'll copy and paste this. We'll go to SQL+ and we'll paste this in. As you can see, 2.4 is actually rounded up to its ceiling value of 3. 2.5 is rounded down to its floor value of 2. Note, mathematically, rounding 2.5 would actually normally give you 3, and 2.4 would normally give you 2. The ceiling function forces it to go upwards, regardless of the decimal, and the floor function forces the number to go downwards, regardless of the decimal. Now let's try the modulus. As we said, the modulus is like a remainder function. All we're doing is we're saying 3 divided by 2 gives me 1 plus a remainder of 1. So if we did select mod 10 4 from dual, we would actually get an answer of 2. What's happened is we've divided 4 into 10 twice. 2 times 4 is 8. 10 minus 8 gives you 2. Now let's use the round function. We've got a rounding on 10.123 to 0 decimal places. It gives you 10. If we were to do select round 10.1, 10.5, 0 decimal places, from dual, it will round up to 11. Here we see we've done 10.125 to 2 decimal places. Because the 5 is there, the 2 will be rounded up to 3, so we get 10.13. The opposite is true of this one, where we've gone 124, the 3rd decimal place will round down to 12. Now let's look at the sine function. The sine function will simply give you -1 or +1 depending on the sign of the number. and obviously 0 will give you 0. The square root function will give you the square root of the number. That is 10 times 10 is equal to 100, and 2 times 2 is equal to 4. The trunc function works differently to the round function in that it truncates. What do we mean by truncate? Truncate means chop off. It means do not take. For instance, in this case, do not take these decimals into account. There is no rounding. All it does is simply remove them. So what happens in this second example, where the round function would take the 5 and round this up to 1/3, it simply chops it off. So you get 10.12. The same applies to 10.124. Rounding up and down is irrelevant, and it simply chops off 124.